Story one. So here I am out in my backyard trying this with my phone. And so the first story I want to tell you is about taking video in Kamchatka. In 1995, my first trip to Kamchatka, I was operating on a shoestring. I had bought a Marantz tape recorder, which was pretty high-end, pro grade really, and was using that to tape record grannies and politicians and other people I was interviewing for various reasons. I did not have a video camera, and lots of people in all kinds of contexts were asking me, "Hey Alex, how come you don't have a video camera? You should get one, you're an ethnographer." The thing is in the 1990s, video was still kind of a niche sort of thing with ethnography. And to be able to put that in your budget with the National Science Foundation dissertation awards, which was actually just a measly $12,000 those days, you had to add an entire methodological justification for why you need to use video as opposed to just shoot film on a film camera, like slides or snapshots. That was considered standard because if it was good enough for Evans Pritchard, it was good enough for the rest of the century. But I didn't get an NSF, but doing that work on that application, I got a whole lot of money from 3 other agencies. So I had enough dough to splash out about $700 on a Sony Handycam High 8 camera, which was kind of pretty good, a long way from pro, but it was pretty good and pretty small. And so I used that in my main ethnographic fieldwork in 1997 and 98. Now, I was thinking I should use video for stuff when people are moving around. So I took video of dancing, dance practices. I was hanging out with these dance groups. And I also took video of various rituals, like the hulolo. I was invited and people said, "Oh, you should video our ritual. It's interesting." In April of 1998, I was living in Middle Pakchi, and a 2-year-old child died in a horrible accident where he pulled a kettle of boiling water on himself. The cord was dangling over the counter, and he was unattended for just a minute, and it was horrible. So we heard about this, and I went along to the cremation, which was on the edge of the village, kind of with everyone else. And I was standing at a respectful distance. I was kind of hanging out in the back, had my notebook out. I was making some notes, and a couple of people came over and told me, "Oh, well, this is what this is, and he's doing that for that reason and whatnot." But then I was surprised when at 2 different times people came up to me and said, "Hey, Alex, how come you're not taking video of this? This is our culture. It's important. You should video it." So unfortunately, there were 3 other funerals in quick succession in that village. One was a woman who had previously to that date passed away from cancer in the town hospital, and her body arrived after this 2-year-old's cremation. And then 2 elderly gentlemen passed away, one from tuberculosis, another from really old age. So the last 2 were less tragic, but actually no less sad for all those who were involved, of course. Now, the last man who passed away, Kaninglat was his name, his youngest daughter asked me to videotape the proceedings, the funeral and the cremation and the wake, and she wanted a copy of that. So I did it and gave her a copy. And of course, in those days, you're not copying files, you're copying videotape. So I hooked up my camera to a TV that had a VCR and duped my High 8 tape onto a standard video cassette that they had. Now, my point is that while the wise sages of the NSF and peer review were saying this was not something that anyone should do, interestingly enough, the natives were saying any ethnographer should be videotaping because it's important data to get. And I got a lot of useful data. And indeed, another video that I made was in stages of my host family that I was staying with in Middle Pakchi setting up their yaranga, which is this complex hemispherical tent that has a really complicated inner structure of poles and things to it. And so my video is really kind of like a how to set up your Yaranga video. And as I was processing all this legacy video in 2013 as part of my documentation project, Tanya's younger sister, Valentina, my collaborator and research partner, was exclaiming, "Wow, Alex, you know, this is really useful history. No one really sets up Yarangi like this anymore. This is really valuable documentation because certainly down south where we are in Palana, no one sets up these kinds of tents. But if someone wanted to do the sewing to create the skins or maybe use canvas, they have all the knowledge that they need in this video to make one properly." So I've always been glad that I've used video in my ethnography, and interestingly enough, the people in Kamchatka have always been very more than cooperative to participate in that. And that's really the key thing. When whatever you're doing in your ethnography, it has to be a cooperative enterprise with the people you're working with to document their lives.